Welcome to the next section of collaborative leadership. We're talking about collaborative leading, but this session is all about, is there a time when the leader should make the decision? So that is to say, there may be moments where collaboration needs to be trumped by the leader making the decision. And so we're going to talk very briefly in this session about the instances where that is needed. The first instance where a leader makes less collaborative decisions is when they're within their own portfolio. And so the way a team works is each team member carries a responsibility in a portfolio, and the obvious way in which collaboration works is there is delegation of authority. So they are free to go away and make their decisions for themselves within their portfolio, being collaborative with their team. Now, therefore, there are moments as you as the leader where within your portfolio you will be making the final decision because it's within your portfolio. I'll give you an example. Within my context, it's my responsibility to determine the preaching themes for our church. So what I do is I will get an idea from my immediate team of over the next 6 months or so what they feel might be themes that we should be picking up within the church that maybe because we haven't touched on for a while, or maybe addressing current challenges we feel people might be facing, or maybe a reinforcement of something in our culture. And I will draw together from them their thoughts, but I will go away and I'll pray and I'll give some thought to it, and I will make the final decision. It's my job to do so. It's my portfolio to do so. So let's not make the mistake that collaborative leadership is completely democratic all of the time. The leader has to make some final decisions within their portfolio. Secondly, a leader makes a final decision when there is indecision. Now, there are two reasons usually why there's indecision within a team. Firstly, because there is need for more time and more information to bring clarity to how a decision can be made. In which case, that's not so much indecision as a delay of a decision. And it's important, therefore, that more information is gathered, that it's agreed what is the missing information before that decision can be made, that further wisdom is sought, and the leader should go away and accumulate or have delegated the accumulation of that more information. So the leader should continue to lead through that moment of indecision. It may be there is indecision in the meeting because of procrastination, or simply the lack of a want or inability to make that final decision, in which case it is the leader's responsibility to make that decision. Discussions have been made, opinions have been shared, there's still options on the table, it's undecided how to go forward, there's plenty of information, plenty of wisdom around the table, yet for some reason a decision's not being made. You, the leader, make the decision. That's your job. Now, in those instances when I do that, I will usually make the decision, but I'll make sure there's a cooling off period. So I will go, look guys, this is the way we need to go, but look, I will confirm to you in the next day or two. Always good to sleep on things where there's been a level of indecision, so that a rash or rush decision is not made. Give yourself time if you're going to be that sort of a leader who needs to come in at that moment and make a decision that's going to rest on your shoulders alone. And finally, a decision by the leader, a final decision by the leader, is often needing to be made in a time of crisis. The question, when does a leader need to be slightly less collaborative, or when does the weight of making a final decision rest on the shoulders? It may be in the middle of a crisis. When you're hitting a crisis, you got these two dilemmas. It's in those moments you need the greatest wisdom. You need to be drawing from the experience of others. You need to be drawing the mind of others. But it's also in those moments that decisions need sometimes to be made very quickly, here and now, because if they're not, the confusion within that crisis will only escalate and become a long-term problem of distrust. And so in a moment of crisis, a leader has to act decisively, quickly, preferably quickly gathering the wisdom of others. It may be you won't have time to gather the wisdom of every team member. It may be also the time to gather wisdom from outside of your own church or organization to make wise choices. But you will need to be navigating quickly, making decisions out of your own experience, out of instinct, and out of the little advice you may have had time to get. And then you're making the decision of how to go forward. You're making a communication. In a crisis, therefore, if you've got the luxury of not making all the decisions in one go, but feeding out small bite pieces of decisions in communication, that is better, because it's easier to change track as you go, as new information unfolds, and therefore it doesn't look like you're changing your mind, but rather constantly tweaking as you go to a final end result. However, there is no doubt in a moment of challenge or crisis, a leader has to rise and get their hands thoroughly on the process of making decisions quickly and communicating clearly. That's what people need in a time of confusion, a clarity of voice. I hope this session's helped you when you as the leader need to particularly rise and make the final decision.